The first whispers began late in the evening, long after most of the cast had signed off for the night. A short clip appeared on a private fan page, only a few seconds long, but enough to send a shock through the entire love and hip-hop community. The man in the shadows sounded restless, almost out of breath, as if he had been carrying a weight that finally slipped from his hands. Viewers leaned closer and argued about whether the voice belonged to Mendeecees. Some insisted it had to be him because the tone had that familiar mix of calm and frustration he tried to hide during tense scenes. Others said it could not be authentic, since he would never risk something so explosive. Yet the clip traveled fast and created its own storm. By the next morning, fans were already building their own theories. Why would Mendeecees record a video like that in the first place? Why now? For months, he kept a steady silence about his sudden exit from the show. The official explanation felt thin, and his supporters believed he had agreed to step away because of personal obligations. But the leaked audio changed everything. In the clip, the man hinted that the truth did not match the public story. He spoke of a moment that pushed him past his limit, something that involved both family pressure and a betrayal behind the cameras. The cast group chats lit up with messages. Even producers, usually confident that they could manage any crisis, felt the ground shift. The tension grew when fans claimed they found another fragment of the same video. This time the voice sounded firmer, almost resigned. It suggested that someone had set him up. Some fans believed it was an argument that escalated at a private taping. Others argued that the video pointed toward a deeper divide, one that had been forming long before he walked away. You could feel the unease settling over the entire community. Messages poured in, asking whether the leaked footage would force someone to break their silence. By the afternoon, the story had picked up heavy momentum. A few anonymous pages claimed they had the full recording but were waiting for the right moment to post it. Anyone who followed Mendeecees closely knew he valued his privacy. Yet he also fought hard for his voice when he believed he had been treated unfairly. So when a verified page shared a still frame that looked like part of the same video, even the skeptics fell quiet. His expression carried frustration mixed with relief, as though he had decided to reveal something he kept hidden for too long. Then came the turning point. A new post appeared on an account linked to one of his longtime associates. It confirmed what many had guessed. The clip was real, and the full recording was on its way. That announcement alone stirred a new wave of speculation. Some wondered whether he had been pushed into a corner. Others claimed the truth would expose a chain of disagreements that the show had tried to bury. That moment marked the beginning of the unraveling. Fans waited, unsure whether the truth would arrive gently or come crashing down. And when Mendeecees finally shared the reason himself, the reaction was immediate. It was louder than anyone expected, and the shock spread far beyond the usual crowd. The hours after the leaked audio spread were tense, and every corner of the fan community buzzed with new theories. But none of them came close to the way Mendeecees felt as he sat alone in his kitchen that morning. The blinds were half closed, letting in thin strips of light that cut across the table. He kept staring at his phone, watching the numbers climb on every post that mentioned his name. He had been through storms before, but this one carried a different force. This time he had not planned it, and the clip had traveled farther than he imagined. He pressed the back of his hand to his forehead and let out a quiet breath, knowing the full story would reach the world whether he wanted it to or not. He whispered to himself that maybe it was finally time, because holding this secret had stretched him thin for months. Everything felt like it was closing in, and the strain between what people believed and what had actually happened had become impossible to ignore. What people never saw was the shift that started backstage during the last taping he attended. He remembered walking into the studio that day, trying to keep his mind calm. But he already sensed that someone felt threatened by him being there. The energy in the room had changed. He noticed the way conversations stopped when he passed, the way glances were exchanged, and the way certain people avoided looking him in the eyes. He tried to brush it off, telling himself that long-running shows always carried pressure. But the silence had a sharper edge than usual. Even the sound crew, normally relaxed and joking around, moved with tension that felt unnatural. As he took his place near the set, a producer he trusted pulled him aside. She looked unsettled, her voice low enough that only he could hear. She told him that a private meeting had taken place the night before, and his name had come up more than once. He asked her what that meant, and she hesitated before saying that someone had accused him of creating division within the cast. He blinked at her, confused, because he had no idea what she was talking about. He had spent the last few weeks doing his best to avoid conflict. He wanted peace, especially for his family, and he had grown tired of the constant pressure to deliver drama on command. He told her he had done nothing to spark any division. Her reply slipped out almost as a whisper, She said the decision was no longer only about what he had done, it had become about what certain people feared he might do. He walked back toward the set with a tightness in his chest. Someone was framing him, and the weight of that realization settled on him like a stone. When filming began, he did his best to stay focused, but every word he spoke felt heavy. The cameras caught every gesture, every glance. The producers watched him closely, waiting for him to slip. He kept his tone steady, answering questions calmly even as he felt agitation building beneath the surface. He knew something was wrong, and he tried to keep from showing it. But tension has a way of leaking through the smallest cracks. The breaking point came later that afternoon during a scene that was supposed to be simple and lighthearted. The conversation shifted unexpectedly, and someone brought up a rumor that had been circulating outside the cameras. He stayed quiet at first, but the moment his name was mentioned, the room changed. One of the cast members turned toward him with a smirk that carried an edge of challenge. She asked whether he planned to pretend again, like he had no idea what people were saying. He felt a heat rise behind his ears. The producers leaned forward in their seats, watching closely. That moment felt engineered. He realized they wanted a confrontation. He tried to redirect the conversation, but she cut him off. Her voice sharpened as she said she had heard that he had been meeting privately with someone from the team to change storylines behind the scenes. Her accusation hit him like a slap. It was untrue, and she knew it. But the room grew loud in seconds. Someone else jumped in, adding to the pile of claims. Even people who usually supported him looked uncertain. It was as if everyone had received the same script before he arrived. The pressure built fast, faster than he could manage. He felt his breathing shift. He felt anger rising, not because of the drama but because he realized that whatever was happening had been coordinated. He had been pushed into a narrative he never agreed to. He stood up slowly, forcing his voice to stay controlled. He said he would not sit there while people tried to twist his actions. He reminded them that he handled his responsibilities and respected everyone on set. But his calm tone only made the others push harder. One of the producers finally stepped in, but instead of easing the conflict, she told him they should take a break. Her words sounded neutral, but the look in her eyes was firm. She did not want him to sit back down. As he left the set and walked into the hallway, the air felt thick. Another producer approached him with a strange expression. He told Mendeecees they needed to talk. They stepped into a side room, and the door clicked shut behind them. The producer explained that recent complaints had painted Mendeecees as a source of disruption. He used words like instability and unpredictable behavior. Mendeecees stood there in disbelief. He asked for evidence. He asked who had said these things. The producer refused to give names. He said only that the show needed to maintain a smooth working environment. And after considering all sides, they had decided to pause his involvement. Mendeecees felt something tighten in his throat. He tried to steady his voice as he asked what pause really meant. The producer avoided the question for a moment before finally saying the word he had been trying not to deliver. Fired. He said it quietly, as though lowering the volume could soften the blow. Mendeecees stood still, feeling a cold rush move through him. He had given years to the show, endured scrutiny, sacrificed time with his family, and supported the franchise through its most chaotic seasons. To hear that he had been pushed out because of a fabricated conflict shook him more deeply than he expected. What made it worse was the final comment the producer added before walking out of the room. He said that if Mendeecees kept things private and left without causing trouble, they would try to shape a respectful public statement. The wording felt rehearsed, and Mendeecees understood immediately that they planned to hide the truth. They wanted to protect their own and to hide the truth. They wanted to protect narrative, and he was expected to stay quiet to preserve the image of unity. He walked out of the building slowly. The air outside hit him with a chill that made him pull his jacket tighter around his shoulders. His phone buzzed again and again, but he ignored it. He needed a moment to breathe. He sat in his car for a long time, staring at his hands on the steering wheel. He replayed every scene from the last few weeks, trying to figure out where things had shifted. The betrayal stung, but what hurt more was the suspicion that someone he trusted had helped set this chain of events in motion. When he reached home, the house was quiet. He moved to the living room and sat down, feeling a weight settle across his chest. He knew he had to tell his family, and he dreaded the moment. They had supported him through everything, and he hated the idea of disappointing them with a decision that had not been his to make. When he finally shared the news, the room filled with confusion and disbelief. His family asked how something like this could happen. He tried to explain without letting his voice crack. He told them about the accusations, the setup, and the cold way the producers had dismissed him. Emotions ran high. His family felt both protective and frustrated, angry that he had been treated unfairly after giving so much of himself to the show. The next 2 days brought a silence that stretched uncomfortably around him. He tried to process what had happened, but every hour brought new messages, new posts, new speculation. People assumed he had left for personal reasons, and he kept seeing comments that made him want to speak out. But he waited, trying to decide whether staying quiet would protect his peace or only deepen the wound. He replayed every detail of the meeting, searching for a clear path forward. He thought about the years he had dedicated to the franchise, the storylines he had carried, and the way he had been reduced to a scapegoat because someone wanted him gone. Then came the moment he recorded the video. He sat in that same kitchen, phone propped against a glass, his voice low but steady. He did not plan each sentence. He let the truth rise naturally. He said he had been forced out, that he had been blamed for division he never caused, and that someone with influence behind the scenes had pushed the decision. He mentioned that he had evidence. He did not name names, but he made it clear that he knew exactly who had orchestrated it. He kept his tone measured, but the pain in his voice carried through every word. When he finished recording, he felt a strange mix of relief and dread. He had no intention of leaking it himself. He recorded it as a way to release the weight sitting in his chest. He sent it only to someone he trusted, thinking they would understand. But trust is fragile, and he had no idea that the person he confided in would be the one to let it slip out. That was where the unraveling began, and the truth he had tried to carry quietly moved into the hands of the world. And as that truth surfaced, the real storm followed. The fallout hit instantly. Social media erupted with fans speculating, debating, and choosing sides as if they were part of the cast themselves. Some were outraged, defending Mendeecees and claiming he had been wronged, while others hesitated, waiting for more details before forming an opinion. Every notification on his phone felt like a spark threatening to ignite the tension he had been trying to contain. He scrolled through messages from close friends, his family, and even former cast members, each carrying a mix of concern, shock, or veiled accusation. He realized quickly that the leak had changed everything. The narrative was no longer in his hands, and yet the truth was slowly reaching the audience in the form of whispers and fragments. He felt a rush of frustration knowing how easy it was for false versions of events to spread. But he also felt a quiet satisfaction that the real story had slipped past the usual filters of production and publicity teams. In the midst of the chaos, a confrontation that had been simmering for weeks reached its peak. One of the cast members, known for stirring tension when cameras were off, confronted him at a neutral location, insisting they needed to speak privately. Mendeecees arrived, tense but controlled, knowing the conversation could turn ugly at any moment. She wasted no time. "You really thought you could play us all and walk away clean?" she demanded, eyes narrowing. He took a slow breath, keeping his voice steady. "I didn't play anyone. I handled my business and respected everyone here. What happened is bigger than me, bigger than the show. You know that," she scoffed, her tone sharp and dismissive, but he held his ground. The room felt charged, like electricity ready to arc, as accusations flew back and forth, each one more pointed than the last. Fans would later speculate endlessly about the words exchanged that day, dissecting the tone, the pauses, the body language. The truth was even more volatile than they imagined. The conversation revealed layers of behind-the-scenes manipulation. Mendeecees realized someone had been actively reshaping events, planting doubts, and nudging cast members to interpret his actions as divisive. The production crew, whose loyalty should have been neutral, had quietly aligned with certain individuals, feeding narratives that positioned him as the antagonist. He remembered the moments clearly, the whispered suggestions, the cameras lingering on reactions that seemed innocent but had been framed in post-production to make him look confrontational. He felt the sting of betrayal, not just from colleagues but from the very system that had promised fairness. It was a network of influence and control designed to push him out quietly, and he had walked right into it. Even his closest allies had begun to question him, unsure whether to trust what they saw or the versions others presented. This tension seeped into family gatherings and private conversations. Mendeecees' sister called him late one night, her voice trembling. "I don't know what to believe anymore. Everyone is saying different things, and She stopped, struggling for words. He reassured her calmly but firmly, explaining that the only reality that mattered was what he knew to be true. He could feel the strain on their relationship. How difficult it was for loved ones to navigate rumors when the official story was carefully crafted to discredit him. He longed for normalcy, a world where his intentions could be judged fairly, but he knew that was impossible now. As the days progressed, new twists surfaced. Former production assistants leaked small but potent details about conversations and decisions that had influenced the termination. Each piece of information painted a clearer picture: meetings that excluded him, discussions about framing incidents in the most dramatic way, even selective editing of footage to make minor disagreements seem like explosive arguments. Mendeecees realized that his exit had been orchestrated with meticulous attention, designed to remove him without triggering backlash from fans who had long admired his composure and honesty. The realization filled him with a mix of anger and admiration for the precision of the plan against him. He felt trapped, knowing the strategy had succeeded in controlling the narrative, until the leaked clip gave him an unintended advantage. One night, while reviewing messages from supporters, he received an unexpected call from a former co-star, someone he had trusted and shared confidences with in the past. The voice on the other end was hesitant. "You don't know what they've done behind your back. It's worse than you think." Mendeecees paused, sensing the weight of the warning. He pressed for details, and the co-star hesitated, finally revealing that the allegations of division were not just exaggerated, they had been fabricated entirely to justify his removal. Certain cast members had been subtly coached to react negatively in controlled scenarios, ensuring that footage could be edited to support the false narrative. The revelation hit him hard. The extent of the manipulation was staggering, and the betrayal from people he once called friends added a sting he hadn't anticipated. Despite the betrayal, Mendeecees found moments of clarity. He documented every incident, every conversation, and every fragment of evidence that could corroborate the truth. He understood that if he wanted his story to matter, he could not rely on hearsay or fragmented leaks. He had to prepare a record, a narrative that could withstand scrutiny and reveal the orchestration behind his dismissal. This preparation became an obsession, a way to regain a sense of control in a situation where nearly everything had been stripped from him. Each day was a careful balancing act, engaging minimally with the public while quietly collecting the pieces of a puzzle no one else would see until the right moment. The fans' reactions intensified as rumors swirled. Some speculated about secret alliances, others about potential feuds. Still others imagined dramatic confrontations yet to happen. Mendeecees watched silently, knowing that their interpretations, while exaggerated, carried a kernel of truth he could not yet reveal fully. He realized that public perception was a dangerous game, one where misinformation could spread faster than correction. And yet he felt a growing determination to ensure that the truth eventually surfaced. The tension between silence and disclosure became a defining struggle, pushing him to consider every step carefully. He was aware that one wrong move could be twisted, just as every calculated move could bring him closer to vindication. The personal stakes escalated when family members became directly involved. His spouse noticed subtle shifts in mood, minor signs of stress that he tried to mask. Conversations at home grew heavier, filled with questions about what really happened on set and who could be trusted. His children sensed the tension and asked questions that cut to the heart of the matter. Mendeecees struggled to provide comfort while maintaining discretion. The emotional weight was compounded by the reality that even in his own household, the shadow of the fabricated narrative loomed large. It was no longer just a professional battle, it had seeped into his personal life, threatening the stability of everything he held dear. As the narrative unfolded externally, Mendeecees planned carefully for the moments he would respond. He knew that timing was critical, that any misstep could reinforce the very misconceptions he sought to correct. He rehearsed conversations, considered statements, and calculated the impact of each revelation. Every interaction, whether private or public, carried potential consequences. Yet he also knew that remaining silent indefinitely was no longer sustainable. The tension between exposure and discretion created a psychological pressure that colored every decision. He lived in a state of constant vigilance, aware that the line between truth and fabrication had blurred in ways that left the audience, and even his closest allies, uncertain. And so, the storm continued to build, with each day layering new complications, new revelations, and new strategies. The betrayal, the manipulation, the subtle games behind the scenes all combined to create a situation that was as dramatic as it was emotionally taxing. Every phone call, every message, every interaction felt magnified, carrying consequences that seemed to ripple far beyond the studio walls. Mendeecees understood that the next moves he made would determine not just the perception of his professional integrity but the emotional health and trust within his own family. The path forward required careful strategy, resilience, and an unshakable commitment to the truth, no matter how messy or painful it might be to reveal. The mounting tension finally reached a tipping point when Mendeecees realized that some of the people he had once called allies were actively working against him. Casual interactions became loaded with unspoken agendas. Smiles were thinly veiled masks, hiding impatience or disdain. And even the smallest gestures seemed calculated to test his patience. He had learned to read the subtle cues. The way someone's eyes flickered at certain words or how laughter sometimes carried a note of condescension. Each observation added layers to the story he had long tried to keep private. But now, the evidence of manipulation was undeniable. The carefully orchestrated campaign to discredit him was clear, and the sheer audacity of it left him both furious and determined to reclaim control. One evening, he received an unexpected message from a former producer who had left the show months prior. The text was short but cryptic. "Meet me. I have proof. The truth is worse than you think." Mendeecees hesitated, knowing the risks. Yet the possibility of finally uncovering concrete evidence of the behind-the-scenes scheme was irresistible. He agreed to meet in a quiet, neutral location, a small cafe tucked away from the usual paparazzi routes. As he arrived, he scanned the room carefully, noting every detail. The former producer waved him over, nervous energy radiating from every movement. Once seated, the conversation began in hushed tones. Documents were pulled from a bag, photographs, email exchanges, and carefully edited timelines that painted a picture of systematic manipulation. Each piece corroborated what he already suspected, confirming that the orchestrated narrative against him had been in motion long before the official firing. The implications of this revelation were staggering. Not only had he been removed from the show under false pretenses, but the entire sequence of events had been meticulously planned to ensure maximum damage to his reputation. The thought of how easily the public could be deceived stirred anger in him. He thought about the fans who had long supported him, the family members who had worried, and the friends caught in the middle. He felt a mix of frustration and sorrow that people he trusted had participated in, or at least facilitated, the deception. Yet the clarity also gave him a strange sense of empowerment. Armed with evidence, he now had the ability to confront the narrative and reclaim his story. Back at home, Mendeecees began carefully documenting everything. He typed notes late into the night, recording dates, times, and conversations, weaving them together into a chronological account of events. Each entry strengthened his resolve, confirming that his departure was the result of a deliberate campaign rather than his own actions. The process was exhausting, mentally and emotionally. Yet he understood that if he wanted justice or at least acknowledgement of the truth, he needed this record. It was more than just a personal vindication. It was a shield against further misrepresentation. Meanwhile, the fanbase continued to react wildly. Speculation on social media reached fever pitch, with hashtags trending that questioned the official story. Some fans created threads connecting seemingly minor events from past seasons, framing them as evidence of the plot against him. Others expressed outright outrage, demanding accountability and transparency. The narrative swirl created pressure not only for Mendeecees but for everyone associated with the show. Producers and cast members who had hoped the controversy would die quietly now faced mounting scrutiny, their carefully constructed narratives unraveling as fan theories gained traction. It became clear that silence was no longer an option if he hoped to set the record straight. The tension bled into his personal life as well. Family members, while supportive, expressed worry about the emotional toll. Late-night conversations were filled with concern, questioning whether he was placing himself at risk by delving so deeply into the machinations behind the scenes. He reassured them, emphasizing that documenting the truth was essential for his own peace of mind and for the integrity of his public image. The support from his loved ones strengthened his resolve, even as the external pressures intensified. He understood that navigating the intersection of personal loyalty and public perception would be one of the hardest challenges he had faced. Days later, a former cast member reached out anonymously, hinting at additional information about the timing and strategy of the plot against him. The messages were fragmented, careful not to reveal identities, but they painted a clear picture: coordinated meetings, deliberate editing of footage, and subtle manipulation of narratives designed to depict him as combative and divisive. Mendeecees read every word with a mixture of disbelief and vindication. The network of manipulation was extensive, spanning multiple seasons and including actors, crew, and behind-the-scenes staff who had a vested interest in his removal. It became painfully clear that his firing was not an isolated incident but a culmination of a long-term strategy to sideline him while protecting the reputations of others. The emotional weight of these discoveries was profound. He experienced moments of anger that surged through him uncontrollably, paired with deep sadness for the betrayal he had endured. Yet, even in the midst of this turbulence, a strategy emerged. He would carefully select which elements to reveal publicly, timing the disclosures to maximize their impact without compromising his credibility. The approach required patience and discipline, qualities he had honed over years in the public eye. But now were being tested in ways he had never anticipated. Every decision had consequences, and missteps could allow detractors to regain control of the narrative. As he prepared for the eventual disclosure, he noticed subtle changes in the behavior of former allies and collaborators. Some became distant, others defensive, and a few tried to insert themselves into the conversation under the guise of support. Mendeecees navigated these interactions cautiously, maintaining polite boundaries while probing for additional information. He recognized that trust had become a currency more volatile than ever, and every exchange required careful assessment. He documented these interactions as well, noting patterns, inconsistencies, and moments of admission that would support his emerging account. And so, the story of his firing evolved from an abstract rumor into a tangible narrative grounded in evidence. He realized that what had initially seemed like an unmanageable storm of misinformation could be converted into a structured, compelling account of betrayal, manipulation, and resilience. The journey was far from over, and every revelation carried the potential to deepen the drama, extend the suspense, and finally illuminate the truth behind the shocking events that had upended his professional and personal life. So now you know the shocking truth behind Mendeecees' firing. The betrayal, the manipulation, and the moments that the cameras never captured. The story is far from over, and the ripple effects of these events are still unfolding. Friends, family, and fans alike are left to wonder what will happen next. Will justice ever be fully served? Will the people who orchestrated this scheme face the consequences of their actions? Or will the truth get buried under layers of edited footage and rehearsed statements? One thing is certain. Mendeecees' story has exposed the hidden currents of power and influence that operate behind the scenes, showing just how carefully narratives can be crafted to control perception. The fan reactions continue to pour in, some shocked, some outraged, some skeptical, but all captivated by the drama that has unfolded. Every comment, every post, every thread adds another layer to the conversation, and your voice matters in shaping the dialogue around what really happened. The stakes are high, emotions are raw, and the division between perception and reality has never been clearer. Mendeecees' journey is a reminder that what we see on screen is only part of the story. And sometimes the most explosive revelations happen off camera, away from the spotlight, and behind closed doors. So now it's your turn to get involved. Comment below with your thoughts, theories, or experiences, and let us know what you believe happened behind the scenes. Did the producers manipulate the cast? Were alliances secretly formed to push him out? Or is there more to the story than we even know yet? Your opinion adds to the drama. Your insights keep the conversation alive, and your voice becomes part of the ongoing unraveling of this shocking saga. Don't forget to like this video if you were as stunned as everyone else by what Mendeecees revealed. Hit that subscribe button to stay updated with every twist, every revelation, and every dramatic moment that continues to unfold. Make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss the next shocking development. Because this story is far from over, and every new detail could change the way you see everything you thought you knew. Stay tuned, stay engaged, and remember, the truth has a way of finding its way to the surface. No matter how deep it's buried, your reactions, your comments, and your support are part of the story now. And together we'll follow Mendeecees through every shocking revelation and dramatic twist that lies ahead.